Welcome to another Third Apron podcast. I am your host, Yossi Goslin, here again for our last division trade deadline preview. We're going to do our last five teams. We already did all the teams in the East. We did the Southwest Division, the Northwest Division, and finally, we're going to do the Pacific Division. And this, I got to give Sam credit because he was the mastermind behind doing this, and specifically the timing of which divisions we're doing. And I think doing Pacific last makes all the sense because as of recording today, it's January 12th. It's about to be January 13th in the East Coast. And the moment is finally here. If you're a Warriors fan, you've been counting down these days. The most unnecessarily drawn out trade saga in NBA history, perhaps, is coming to an end, hopefully, as soon as Thursday. In roughly 48 hours, the Warriors can finally trade Jonathan Kuminga. Sam, I can't tell you how much I've loathed this trade saga. I think the first modern day trade saga was the Carmelo one, Melodrama in 2010. I'm talking about the drawn out ones. That one was really drawn out. We had the Dwight Mayer 2012, Ben Simmons 2020, 2021.
No fun little nickname?
I don't know what that one was. I don't think anyone liked that one at all. I think
Benadryl,
that one was the worst
because it put us to sleep. I don't know, because he wasn't playing.
And if I'm missing any really drawn long ones in between, obviously you got players like Jimmy Butler that was quick getting out of Minnesota. Harden had a few, but they were all quick. So I'm just talking about the drawn out ones. I think that Ben Simmons one was the worst out of these drawn out ones, but I think this Kuminga one might be rivaling it, except he's not even to the same level as some of these players I just mentioned. Where does this rank for you?
I mean, it's the dumbest because he's never been good, right? If Jonathan Kuminga had the exact same career, except he was picked number 27 instead of number 7, this never would have happened. He would have been traded 2-3 years ago, and we never would have gone through this. And I'm not sitting here saying that he can't be good. It's just the entire idea of Jonathan Kuminga has been theoretical, aside from a couple of brief stretches. I want to say in 23, he kind of made a run for most improved player from January to March, and then I think he got hurt. Ben Simmons, for all of the foibles, I think he made an All-NBA team, didn't he? Carmelo, yep. Dwight Howard were Olympians. Jonathan Kuminga is 4 or 5 rungs on the ladder below that. I can't ever remember a player that, at least based on what we've seen thus far, is this inconsequential, drawing this much attention. But that's sort of what happens when the Warriors are involved.
No, you hit the nail on the head. There's never been a player more undeserving of this attention than we're giving him on his future. I think there's also Jay Crowder 3 years ago when he asked for a trade, but that was no one really cared. He just didn't play for the. Yeah, but he didn't even suit up for the Suns. That no one missed him. This is kind of closer to that realm because, as you mentioned, Kuminga's never really been good. He's never helped the Warriors really that much at all. What makes this one so bad is just, one, a waste of the Warriors window. 2, like I said, these ones have lasted 4 to 6 months, like Melo, Dwight, Ben Simmons. Are we sure that this isn't really technically year 3 of this? Because I remember after 22, so I think 23, 24, maybe 2 years ago, we had that. There was a report that Kuminga no longer trusts Kerr. And from that moment on, we knew that things were not working out well between Kuminga and the Warriors. And what also makes this thing worse is, if you really want to count those years, what do you call it when you were, what's that term if you were in jail waiting trial and they count those years? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I guess so we might be on time served with this. But also it could continue.
He spent more of his career on the trade block than in good standing with the Warriors. If you went back and tracked the first rumor, I would bet he has played more games since then than he did before, which I don't know if that's ever been true of any player short of I can't even think of a circumstance where that's been true.
So the other issue the other thing with this is that it technically doesn't need to end. The Warriors don't have to trade him if they don't get an offer they like. They've got that team option. They could continue this for another year. Look, Warriors, just trade him. I don't think anyone wants this. Just please end this already. So I anticipate they'll finally trade it. It's like just cut the cord already. But let's actually get into it a little bit because I've done already done like extensive coverage on the Warriors on Third Apron. A couple weeks ago, I had a Rich 2 from Let's Go Warriors on. We talked about every trade target. The reason I did that is because the Warriors have been linked to, I think, every single significant above starting level player who isn't the point guard.
Except for one, and I'm gonna bring him up. Oh, you said except for point guard. You're ruining my
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah, no, yeah, except for everybody from Giannis, AD, Michael Porter Jr. He's been rumored recently. Like every single above starting level player, other than like Jaren Jackson Jr., and that's because he really hasn't been mentioned as a trade candidate. Now he's kind of starting. The Calico was reporting today that maybe now teams are hoping that he could be available. So it's only a matter of time. I'm sure the Warriors will get linked to him next. So they can trade for everybody, in my opinion. I think like they have with all their draft picks, I think they could get Giannis if they really wanted to be that aggressive, if he's available. So they can get everybody from like A to Z, which would be, I guess, Giannis to like Herb Jones, if that's how you want to categorize it. They could trade for first, as I mentioned, only 1 second, and that one is a fake second as I look at my draft sheet. So really no seconds. They could only trade those 4 firsts.
Should we mention technically, if we're being absolutely technical about this, they could trade 3 2/3 firsts because the 2030 first round pick goes to Washington if it's between 21 and 30. But that's not going to bother anybody in trade negotiations because you're trading for the valuable portion of the pick, which is if it falls between 1 and 20. You're not shedding any tears if you lose number like 26. Yeah. Unless that's the only pick you're getting. If you're getting 3 first round picks in a star trade, that's just not an issue.
Right. No, thanks for clarifying that. Also, I posted a short today about how the Warriors could acquire Michael Porter Jr., what that trade framework would look like. So I'll say this, I don't think they're going to get a max guy. I don't really think they should even trade for a $40 million guy like Michael Porter Jr. I explained why in the video. I mean, I'll explain it here. Basically, they have 2 big needs. They need a shooter like him, but then they also need a big man. If you're going to put up a lot of your tradable salaries to get a $40-ish million guy like Michael Porter Jr., you're going to have a really tough time getting a big man after. So it's going to be hard to thread that needle where I think you're going to want to try to do multiple trades if possible, where you're not trading too much value. Maybe you can get your shooter with 1 first. Maybe you can get your big man with a swap or something like that. That's kind of the strategy I would go about. I don't really have any specific trades. I'll defer to you on that. But that's more like my strategy of how I would approach a trade deadline if I'm the Warriors.
You ready for me to come off the top rope with the trade?
Yes.
Jonathan Kuminga, Buddy Hield, and the 2026 first round pick for Daniel Gafford and Klay Thompson. Boom. I have done it. I have solved Golden State's issues. I have done so without tapping into the actual future value. So if they wanted to do something significant in the offseason like Chase Giannis, they could. But you get your center, you get your shooter, and I think most importantly, bread and circus. That's all this really is. I don't think Klay Thompson is fixing the 2026 Warriors. I do know the fans would be so happy to have him back. Steph and Draymond would be placated. They'd be thrilled. This is a way to do something that looks a lot more significant than it actually is. You're just trading a mid-first round pick for a starting center, but because you're getting Klay back, it looks like you're doing a lot more than you actually are. And his contract aligns with Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. They all expire in 2027. So none of your plans change. You've basically just traded for your new center and also given the fans something to root for.
I've thought about this framework, though I don't think the Warriors would need to trade a first in this. I think if you're the Mavs, bringing in a guy like Jonathan Kuminga actually makes a lot of sense, even if he doesn't pan out. I would think that at his low, he's pretty much worth what Daniel Gafford is.
I disagree with that.
like I think you're buying in on a lot of the potential, so that is getting factored in.
I
So
think where we disagree is that Daniel Gafford just has a much bigger market than Jonathan Kuminga does. Like the Mavericks don't have to trade Gafford at all, first of all, because Derek Lively's injury has actually made Daniel Gafford pretty important to the Mavericks. But even if they have decided, yes, we are trading him, Boston can offer plenty, Atlanta can offer plenty, Indiana can offer plenty. They have options. Like it's a seller's market for them. So I
well,
think if the
here's
Warriors are getting this across the finish line, a first has to be in it.
but here's why. Another reason though is that the Warriors, even though they're bringing back Clay, that's still a negative value contract. So why, if I'm the Warriors, I'm asking why do I need to trade a first on top of that to bring in the worst contract in the trade?
Because it's not that bad a contract. It's one more year. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not making you this trade without getting the first because I can get the first from other teams. And, like, frankly, I think between those other teams that are all involved, if I need one of them to take on Clay, I think that's probably doable. Like, I think Atlanta, if push came to shove, would take on Clay for one extra year. Like, I just think Dallas controls this situation. There are more teams that want Daniel Gafford than there are available centers. So if you want to be the team that gets him, you got to play ball. And by the way, if you're Golden State, like, so what if you give up the 18th pick? That's not what matters. What matters is preserving the future picks. So over the summer, if you want to do something more significant like Chase Giannis, you have that flexibility without being encumbered by the Stepien. I don't think this really hurts them in any way. It's like, sure, would you have rather gotten Jimmy Butler last year without giving up the pick? Yeah, definitely. Guess what? It costs picks to do things.
I think though the Warriors are, I don't think they're getting significantly better. I think they're this going to be the same exact team they are
That's
in the
not the
standings.
point. The point
The
is to quiet the noise, right? Like you're not doing anything to make the roster significantly better this year. I think we both agree that there's no version of the deadline that makes the 2026 Warriors a championship contender. Like, do you agree with that
I,
statement
I
broadly?
I agree with you. I agree with you on that, and I don't have a problem with the framework. It's just a small detail we disagree on. If this isn't going to take them from being like a playing team to potentially closer to like the 5 or 6 range, I just don't see why they need to include the first.
You do it
That's
because I
all.
think like aside from the fact that like again the market dictates it, I do think having Daniel Gafford longer term is valuable enough that giving up like the 18th or 19th or 17th or whatever pick is fine. I have nothing against that. If you have to lottery protect it, then lottery protect
Yeah,
it. Like there's a way you can do this that makes it work. Like
yeah,
wasn't there a protection on the pick they gave the Heat last year?
yeah. But that's Jimmy Butler. He saved their season last year.
No,
It's like an
I guess
all-star.
I don't know. I think giving up a mid first round pick, you're getting too
Yeah.
cute with this. Like
Again,
you cannot go through the rest of the year like this.
like from what I've seen some reporting, the Mavs might generally be interested in Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe they would view a Gafford and Kuminga trade as something fair and something they do. So I think this trade definitely is feasible. If the Warriors had nothing else and this was like the last option on the table, I think they should take it. I just don't think they need to include it first. That's all I'm saying. But
want to know why I disagree with you? Because at a bare minimum, Benedict Mathurin is more valuable than Kuminga, and I think the Mavericks could get Benedict Mathurin for Gafford. So if you want to chop Indiana, like you got to do it.
so I do actually have some trades. I had to scroll down a little bit. I almost forgot. Because what I'm saying for the strategy, try to do 2 different trades. You did everything in one. I want to go for a little more youth and a little bit more athleticism. So if they do a trade with the Nets, I do like the idea of them going after Nick Claxton. Chris Haynes did mention Claxton as a potential fit. So the trade I would do is offer Kuminga and Moody and the 26 first for Claxton and Haywood Highsmith. I would, so that's number one. You get your big and you get a solid front court guy to come off the bench, assuming he comes back. I don't know what really the update is, but I assume he's going to come back this year. Then I would try to turn Buddy Hield and the swap into Quentin Grimes. That would be my shooter trade. I think if you can bring in a guy like Grimes, who would be under heavy team control if you're the Warriors, because if he's traded, he has non-bird rights with his new team. So you might risk losing him, but if you can maybe do like a wink, wink 1+1 on his non-bird, and then you have his bird rights, then you have the early bird rights, then you could get him to a market value deal. That's something a little more smaller scale, but you get a little bit younger in this deal, and I don't know what exactly the swap would be. It'd probably have to be a distant one. But maybe the Sixers and then a third team would probably have to be involved because the Sixers would want to dump Grimes. I don't think they'd want to take on Heel, but this is kind of like the type of framework I would go for if I'm the Warriors.
Why are
Like,
the Sixers trading Quentin Grimes? Like, Quentin Grimes is just going to be a core part of their team for the next 5 years.
To duck the tax, I'm anticipating
they do not want to duck the tax that badly. You keep doing this. You did it with Kelly Oubre too.
They do it every year.
They're a good team. They're a good team.
They do it every year.
If they're going to duck the tax, the way you're going to do it is like Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, and 50 seconds, whatever it takes, to the Nets, and then you just like round out the roster with minimums. They're not giving away like good players that they want to be part of their team for the long haul.
What I'm saying though is I don't know if they're going to even keep Quentin Grimes now after this year. If he gets I think there's a threshold of an offer that if another team makes it, the Sixers might just let him go because they still owe all this money to Embiid and George and Maxey.
But they won't know if he's getting that offer until the summer. I do think there is a world in which they get outbid for him. I don't think they're giving him away at the deadline because I think it is their intent to re-sign him to a long-term deal that's fair for both sides.
So, but whether or not that's like that's super feasible or not, that's as far as like the types of players and their salaries and hopefully the price, that's more so what I would go for.
I'm still not giving up the swap, by the way. I'm not encumbering a deep future pick for like, again, I am only thinking about the 2026 pick. That pick is not important to me. That's a mid-first round pick. I know what it is. If I have to lottery protect it or whatever, fine. But I'm not thinking about giving up deep future picks. I just don't think it's justifiable given where they are. Like, I don't want the 5%, 10% chance that my 2031 pick is number 1 overall or number 2 or number 3 or whatever going to Philly. Like, that's not worth it for this team. You're not going anywhere with Quentin Grimes. That's the benefit of doing this for Clay. The fact that he's bad money means that you're actually not giving up that much. Like, you're harping over giving up a mid-first round pick. You're talking about giving up an unprotected swap deep in the future. That's way worse.
I don't know. I have to figure out which swap that would be because the Sixers, if let's say that was something they're interested in, they might want to tie it to some of the other firsts that they're like maybe they want to tie it to the Clippers in 2028, so they try to maximize that first a little bit more, something like that. That was kind of what I was thinking. Anything else on the Warriors? I mean,
I have a million other Kuminga trades if you want to go through it.
Let's go through some.
All right. What about Milwaukee? Just Jonathan Kuminga for Bobby Portis and Gary Trent.
I think the first trade you did for Gafford, I think I'd rather just do that if I'm the Warriors.
I think I would too. I like the idea of getting Bobby Portis and not giving him a pick. I think Bobby Portis would do quite a bit for their bench offense because when Steph goes to the bench, they just can't score. So I think getting Bobby Portis just without giving up a pick, you're just giving up Kuminga, who you don't want anyway, makes sense. And for the Bucks, I mean, number one, they just need athleticism on the wings so badly. I don't know that Kuminga really addresses their concerns, but he's athletic, he's young, he has some upside. Sure, why not? Plus, the real advantage, you get a bigger salary to work with in the offseason when you're trying to make your next trade. Bobby Portis at like 14 million, Kuminga at like 22, at least for this year. I haven't looked at next year. That just gives you a little bit more tradable salary, which we know is an issue for the Bucks. So that makes some level of sense to me. Did you see the reporting from Jake Fisher today about the Lakers potentially being interested?
So with the Bucks, like the Mavs, I think as a destination that makes sense, assuming that they might have to trade Giannis this year, next year, bringing in a guy like Kuminga makes sense to have him grow and develop there. He'll have a lot of touches. Yeah, I saw that report about the Lakers. I mean, are they just trying to just get in a wing and hope the 3-and-D comes along?
We're going to have a deeper conversation about this exact topic when we get to the Lakers. I just want to lay out the trade for now. Just Rui Hachimura and Dalton Connect. Like Golden State, you take your look at a shooter because you need a shooter, and we take our look at an athlete, which Kuminga is, and they just badly need some athleticism on that team. Neither of them are guaranteed for next year. Rui's just a free agent straight up. Kuminga is a team option. There's just no risk attached for either team. You're just swapping
Yeah,
players you probably don't want to keep anyway.
I think you're right with that one. The Lakers, they need to decide. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into it again, so I kind of want to keep it short. But in their quest to hopefully get some more athleticism and defending, if you're going to bring in a guy like, let's just say it is Jonathan Kuminga, that means somebody else on the roster has to get less minutes or just go. So I don't think there is that much synergy with keeping Rui Hachimura if you bring in Kuminga. So I understand that you have Laravia, who kind of is starting to replace the Rui slot. So I I don't. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it is a risk at all if the Lakers want to do that. Worst case, it doesn't work out. Okay, you can get off his contract easily with that team option.
And then Rui's like the one thing he's done consistently for the Lakers is make threes, right?
Yeah.
Like if the Warriors just want a shooter, Rui Hachimura will do that for you. He'll give you headaches in 5 other areas, but he will make threes for you. So like if there's nothing else out there that you like, why not take the shot at it?
It's funny how in the early part of the decade, the Lakers had all defense, no shooting. They went out of their way to try to make this team really good offensively with strong shooting. Now they finally have it, but they have no defense. They got to find that balance somehow. That's the journey now.
Again, we're going to get to more of this when we get to the Lakers section. They're not that great shooting and they're not that great on offense. And there's a lot more to say there. Do you want to go through the like just the generic, like we have to name all of the big names? Like how many picks is it for Michael Porter Jr.? How many picks is it for Sabonis? How many picks is it for Jaren Jackson? Like, do you think any of these guys are worth it? Is there like a price that you would consider it at?
So I think we touched on this in our last episode about the Warriors and their willingness to trade multiple firsts. I concluded I don't think they are gonna. I don't think they're gonna trade like 2 or more firsts. Otherwise, they would have done it already. And it's just this. They're trying to balance their future with extending Curry's prime as much as possible, and it's going to be really hard to do both. On one hand, you're going to have to trade some of them if you're going to keep trying to maximize the remaining years that Curry has, but you also can't do an all-in trade because once you trade all those first, that's it. You're out of moves, and then you're expediting the end, and you might have to just trade Curry if anything. So all these guys, Giannis worth 4, Jaren, Trey Murphy probably worth 3. I just don't. We can get more and more into it, but the point is, I just don't think the Warriors are in a position where they should be doing those types of trades.
I mostly agree with you. Again, I think it's a bread and circus thing. It's not about actually competing with Steph. I think it's about giving the appearance that you're trying with Steph, which is part of why I think getting Clay makes sense. This is about placating people, like the season ticket holders, the coach, the players. Like this is less about trying to win a championship, which I don't think is really attainable, than it is about making it look like it did. This is about sending Steph off with proper respect. If you could do Giannis, you do. Like Giannis, whatever. He's that good that if you can give up all your picks and all of your young players, however meager that amount might be at this point, you do it. Jaren Jackson Jr. is an interesting one because the fit is so easy. Like if you could set this up in such a way that you're starting Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Moody, and Jackson, like that's a starting 5 at least that I think can compete with anybody. It's just there's so much risk with the age involved. Jaren is always hurt. Like you'd have to feel reasonably confident that you could flip Jaren in a year or two. And I think with his contract, that's probably a no.
Mm-hmm.
Sabonis, I thought like, what if the Warriors could get Keon Ellis in a deal too? Like maybe that would compel me to give up 2 firsts, but even then I'm still pretty lukewarm. 1 first for Porter Jr., I would do 2026, but the Nets wouldn't do that. I would not do 2032. So I sense that there's not really a match there. I think we mostly just agree the Warriors are not good enough to justify the sort of trades that they've been linked to, right? Whether it's Anthony Davis or Jaren Jackson or Michael Porter Jr., they are a play-in-ish team. The gap between there and where they want to go is bigger than the assets that they could justify giving up. If Steph were 2 or 3 years younger, like maybe we'd reconsider, but he's not.
Yeah, I'm with you on those valuations. The only one I'd push back on is a bonus, but we'll get to that once we get to the Kings section at the end. But yeah, we certainly know the Warriors are trying. They've been linked to everybody. Like every single of these guys, the Warriors have fished around on, and they probably won't get any of them, but they're certainly giving it a try. I think the types of deals we came up with, that's probably more in the realm of reality. Any other trades, or should we take a break?
Let's take a break.
All right, guys, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to move on to the Los Angeles Clippers. And we're back. This time we're going to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers, who, as of right now in this moment, they are up 86 to 84 on the Hornets after the third quarter. They've now won 9 of their last 11 games, so they could potentially make it 10 out of 12 if they hold on tonight. Second best net rating in the NBA during that stretch, just under the Celtics, third in offense, seventh in defense. Some impressive wins, including Houston and Detroit twice. So, yes, at this rate, they should qualify for the play-in tournament at least. I'm just not really moved by this run, Sam. Now, the reporting is that with the stretch they have, they're looking to be buyers. They just don't really have anything to buy with. We'll get into their draft pick situation in a bit. But even then, with whatever they have remaining, I don't think they're going to trade any first. They can only trade one first. I don't think they're going to trade any swaps. They're just too risky right now, given their bad start and how old their team is. So I'll kind of defer to you. Do you think the Clippers should continue and try to add on to this team and make the most of it, or should they blow it up? Something that we discussed about 2 months ago when everything was really bad.
I think what you're missing here is they actually do have something pretty valuable to trade. It's just not draft picks. It's expiring contracts. Between John Collins, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Brook Lopez, they're above $50 million in expiring contracts. They're very, very flexible financially. I would not give up the 30 or the 32 picks for anything. They are not good enough to justify doing that. Just that ship has sailed. This is not a championship team. I think it's important for the Clippers, a team that fancies itself a recruiter, a big market team that's going to be able to find its next stars eventually. It behooves them to be competitive and to make the play-in and make the playoffs. If you sell off Kawhi and Harden and Zubats for what I frankly think would be a pretty middling return, I don't know how much that ultimately helps you if your goal is not like going out and managing intelligently and winning on the margins, but to actively recruit stars. If you're just bad for 3 or 4 years without your picks and you're an embarrassment and people are laughing at you for sending the Thunder or sending the Sixers really good picks, like I think that does you a lot more harm than just hanging around the play-in. So I would be thinking about using those expiring contracts to improve by maybe taking back some longer-term deals that are attached to, say, players that are good, but maybe overpaid or have longer years left, or their teams are going in another direction or whatever. Ironically, I have 3 trades set up all with the same team. I'm curious if you have any idea who that team is going to be. Just basically for the sake of, let's like make a go at this and try to make the playoffs and maintain respectability. So looking at what they actually need, it's pretty clear to me what they need is Norm Powell, but Norm Powell plays for the Miami Heat and is presumably not available. Their offense even during this streak, it's been like this all year, but even during this recent streak, the offense is 13 points per 100 possessions worse whenever James Harden goes to the bench. And as a team during this streak, the net rating goes down 27 points when Kawhi Leonard sits. I can't fix the defense. I think getting Derrick Jones Jr. back eventually will hopefully be helpful in that regard. I think finding a bench creator is pretty doable. So I have 3 trades with the same team. Do you have any clue who that team is?
Their same team? No. Go ahead.
The Sacramento Kings in the division. Right. I think this is very, very straightforward. Hey, Sacramento, you've been trying to get out of the Malik Monk contract forever. Bogdanovich and Chris Paul for Malik Monk. Who says no?
Um, I guess just the Clippers because they want to preserve 2027 cap space.
Can
That
I
would be
just
the
stop you
only.
right there for a
That
second?
would be that would
That's
be the reason, though. I'm not saying I think it's a good
yes.
trade. Actually, I think it makes sense, but that would be the reason that stops the Clippers.
I'm speaking directly to the Clippers right now. Grow up. You're not signing Giannis. You're not signing Jokic. Get that out of your head. This was not happening even before the Kawhi embarrassment, which is a whole other issue that we can get into if you want. No
Wait a minute, hold on.
star.
One second though, because you're saying that the Clippers need to sell respectability so they could sell stars or free agents. Like
Yeah.
who are the but then who are the free agents if they're not going to
I'm
get the
not
guys you
talking about
listed?
26 or 27. There are going to be lean years. Why is Jokic going to the Clippers? Like, what is the appeal to him? If Jokic wants to go to LA, why wouldn't he play with his good friend Luka? The same was true of Giannis. Like, if any of these guys were changing teams in free agency with an eye on moving to Los Angeles, they were going to join the Lakers, right? Like, oh, but Sam, Kawhi, and Paul George wanted to be Clippers. They didn't want to be Lakers. They didn't want to play with LeBron, right? Like, if your chance is I can go to a blank slate of a team in the Clippers that, by the way, has no picks, at least in the present. They don't have much youth to speak of either. There's nothing there to really build around. By the way, like, they might lose more picks. Guys might get suspended or fired or contracts waived. Like, we don't know what this Kawhi Leonard investigation is going to show. I see no reason why Jokic or Giannis would choose the Clippers. Like, can you give me a reason they would?
Oh, that's the point I'm saying. I agree with that, but then what's the point of trying to be good now and potentially enter a rebuild if they're not if the respectability isn't going to lead to some really good players coming?
There is a middle ground between signing Nikola Jokic and signing like good players, right? And this doesn't have to happen in 2027. As their books are currently set up, you can bring this team back next year relatively easily. Keep Harden, keep Kawhi, try to have another year kind of in that playing range. And then you kind of take it year to year. Like maybe Harden and Kawhi are good next year, and you bring them both back on 1 year deals in free agency in 2027. Forgive me, I don't think either of them are going to have especially robust markets given their age, injury history, and Kawhi's case, off court scandal. So, like, just play it year to year and, like, try to stay nimble, but in the play in range. Taking on Malik Monk at 18 million a year for the next 2 years after this one, that doesn't really interfere with your plans. Like, is it a slight overpay? Sure. I think the value you would get from him on the court in terms of maintaining respectability would be worth taking on that contract for you.
Because they only have Kawhi under contract, Zubats under contract. Combined, they'd be making. Wait, no. Would Kawhi be under contract? Now I'm kind of confused. Maybe
Kawhi's under
not.
contract for next year. He is not under
Okay.
contract for 27,
Oh,
28.
so
Zubats
just
is the only one
Zubats.
I think
Yeah.
under contract for 27, 28.
Yeah, and then Monk would be expiring by then. So I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think that's
They could
probably
figure
the
it
one
out
that
later if
makes
needed.
that's the one that makes the most sense. It's the smallest contract. It's the longest, but it's the smallest. DeMar DeRozan rumors forever. I don't think it really makes sense. The partial guarantee might appeal to them in case they like have something that they actually want to use money for and they need it. But you just do Bogdanovich and Brook Lopez. Like, yeah, I think the Kings would be all for that. You agree?
Kings, yes. Clippers, I wonder if they'll want some small asset on top of that because they are taking on some of that. He has a $10 million partial guarantee for next year. I don't know what that asset is. I don't know how the Kings second round pick situation is, but I think that could require some. Maybe this is where the Keon Ellis can get
That was
involved.
gonna that was gonna be the next thing that I brought up. We're gonna have a very interesting conversation about Keon Ellis a little bit later. I don't know that he necessarily makes the most sense for the Clippers because they have Chris Dunn kind of already doing similar things. But yeah, I mean, you'd never say no to having Keon Ellis for the rest of the year. And like maybe you re-sign him and Chris Dunn is, an older guy. Maybe he's towards the end. Maybe that's the way to do it. And then I tinkered with the idea of Zach LaVine because offensively, Harden, LaVine, and Kawhi would be awesome. All of those guys, I mean, I guess not really Harden, but Kawhi and LaVine are totally fine off the ball. They don't have to have high usage. The shooting would be so incredible between them. I think John Collins has been so important to this year's team that I just wouldn't feel comfortable giving him up for the slight improvement that Levine is over like Monk. I'd rather have Collins and Monk than Levine. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think the Kings are the team, just given where they are and just what they happen to have too much of, that makes the most sense for the Clippers as far as finding a Norm Powell replacement, somebody to keep the offense afloat whenever James Harden goes to the bench. I think if you can do that and you get Derrick Jones Jr. back, you should feel pretty good about like making the play in and maybe making the playoffs without having given up too much.
I agree that these types of frameworks you just listed, that's probably what the Clippers realistically go for and probably end up even doing. I would still personally do a rebuild. As far as your point with trying to be respectable to try to get other players to potentially join, we know now we're learning that there was another competitive advantage the Clippers had that convinced Kawhi to join. And also that team wasn't even they were a 7 seed that year, a very young team. Yeah, the Paul George trade really pushed them to ultimately go there. But I think the Clippers, if they're somewhat of a destination already, if someone wants to go there, they can make it happen. That was a really quick rebuild. They just turned Blake Griffin into SGA, Tobias Harris, and a bunch of cap space, and they turned it around like very fast, getting away from the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin era. So if they were a little more shrewd like back then, I think they can get back to it. But these guys don't have the same value as those guys back then. So
Well, yeah, like what do you think they could get if they did put Kawhi and Harden out there? I think Kawhi has been so good that it now is plausible that they could get like positive value back for him. Remember a few months ago, or maybe even weeks, I can't remember how long ago it was, we did an episode where like the Lakers might have made some sense and the Pistons might have made some sense. There were teams out there that I think could have talked themselves into Kawhi. Now I think you would have to give up something to get him.
So let's talk about Kawhi. He's averaged 28 points per game in the last 11 games, 3.5 threes, 39% shooting 94% on and making 7.6 free throws a game, overall 50% from the field, and almost 4 stocks per game. So he's playing really hard. He's playing 37 minutes a game, and this is it's like the most minutes per game really ever in his Clippers tenure. The only one that the most he did was playing like 34 minutes per game. 2 years ago, that first season, he really put an effort to stay healthy, play the whole regular season. And then kind of like some of the seasons preceding it, by the time he got to the playoffs, his knee just gave out. I'm not saying I'm predicting that's what's going to happen to Kawhi by playing so hard. Just historically speaking, he's going to probably miss some time soon at the very least. And this whole thing hinges on him. If he goes down, then they're gonna go on a losing streak. He's only getting older. So, as to your point about what can they get positive value for Kawhi, I would think in the normal circumstance, yes. I still don't know how viable it is that they could trade Kawhi because the aspiration case is still ongoing. The big risk is if he gets a suspension, that's the team then can't play him for X amount of time. Whoever knows how that
Or
is.
if his contract is voided.
Yeah, but if the contract's voided, then you get off the money. But if
you gave up a pick, like, and what if you gave up good money to get him? Like, I don't know. You'd have to have an attachment in there. Like the league would have to sign up on the idea that if Kawhi's contract is voided, the trade is voided.
I think what's worse is like a year-long suspension because then you have just $50 million sitting on your books next year. And you can't get it off.
The NBA would have to cooperate with whoever trades for Kawhi, and like they'd have to figure all of this out in advance, whatever it is.
So in my blow it up thing, I'm not even considering trading Kawhi. I'm not even considering trading James Harden either, because now we're seeing some real movement from a lot of younger former all-star guards between Trae Young, potentially Ja Morant. If they're moving around, I doubt there's going to be a market for Harden. So again, this isn't going to fix their entire future. I would still trade Zubats now. I made this case from the initial part of the season when the Clippers were really stumbling. I've said it time and time again. This is the best time to move him. This is the peak of his value. I think they could get two, potentially three first round picks of value, like, two good ones, as in two good first round picks of value, and then potentially get under the tax. Not that that's too important, but they might as well do that if they're going to blow it up. So I have a couple trades, and let me know what you think. I'd call up the Wizards. They just traded for Trae Young in a move to boost their team next year. So with him coming in and their lottery pick that they'll probably keep this year, I think they'll make a run. I would see if I can get a combination of guys like Bub Carrington. Maybe he's a little more expendable now. AJ Johnson, and just another salary, and then try to get a couple first round picks. Maybe you can get that Thunder 2026 first round pick, but even more importantly, the Wizards have multiple 2028 firsts, so try to get a pick back that year. The Wizards have like a lot of funky
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up.
Yeah.
I would not. Let me just give you the picks that I would not trade. I would not trade 2028 or 2030 because both of them have sun swaps attached, and I'm not touching those.
So you're gonna need one like good first, and I think that's where the Wizards are gonna have to pay up a little bit. Try to get one of the two first the Wizards have. It's like they have two of the more favorable of their own Nets, Sixers, Suns. They get two of those picks. That's like the good one I want to get if I'm the Clippers, especially because they don't have a 28 first. Any thoughts on that type of framework?
I'm on board with the idea. I just think this theory, like this idea, can be done cheaper. Like, why wouldn't I just wait and see what the Thunder do with Hartenstein? Because I don't think Hartenstein's going to be in Oklahoma City for long. I bet I could get him for cheaper than Zubats.
Clippers could have also potentially given him a better deal when they had him the first time, and they could have kept.
They could have, yeah. They chose John Wall over Isaiah Hartenstein. How'd that one go?
Yeah. A lot of teams could have kept Isaiah Hartenstein. The other type of trade, same kind of philosophy. I'd call up the Spurs. Just give me your matching salary, so like Sohan and a minimum. It's not about the players. I want some good picks. The Spurs have some good picks, so give me first the gold one, a 2031 first round pick that has the King swap on it. I want then a 2028 first, which has a Celtic swap, so that's probably not going to be that valuable. And then I just want an additional swap on top of that because the Clippers, they don't have they owe their pick as a swap next year. Can you maybe hedge that by getting that Spurs pick owed by the Hawks next year? That's the kind of package I would try to go for also if I'm the Spurs. If I'm the
Okay,
Clippers.
first of all, if I'm the Spurs, the 2031 Kings pick, totally untouchable. We can talk about the Atlanta pick this year, which I think would be in the lottery if the lottery was today. The Kings pick that's gold. That's like my chance when Wemby is around 30 or like late 20s to get the next sidekick coming up for him. That pick's like untouchable in anything that I do.
Well, I'm asking for it.
Well, too bad you're not getting it. And like again, I think this is a little bit too ambitious for the Spurs. I would like them to get another center who's in the like 10, $15 million range. Gafford would be enough, I think. I think Zubats is just a little bit too premium asset-wise and salary-wise. Well, I guess the salary is pretty reasonable, right? It's like 2 more years at 20-ish a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's making like 20 million a year.
But that's
another part of the value. That's the big part of the values that Zubats makes so low for an above average starting center.
But I don't want to really commit myself to like I have to play Wemby with another big because you have Cornette there too, and like I just don't know that the minutes are really there. Plus the minutes that I want to play Wemby at center, I would like somebody a little bit lower maintenance, slower usage. So I would probably go for somebody cheaper. It's interesting that you bring up these teams that would look at him as sort of like a luxury, as opposed to the Indianas and the Bostons and the Atlantas of the world that could look at him as something more like a necessity. I think Atlanta could do something very, very interesting. People have gotten so gung-ho about the Pelicans Bucks pick this year that they've forgotten Atlanta also has a Pelicans Bucks pick next year. So next year, thanks to the DeJounte Murray trade, the Hawks have the lesser of New Orleans and Milwaukee's picks. We think both of those picks are going to be pretty good. So that could be a centerpiece for a trade like this. We know they're looking for a center.
Yeah. I just picked those teams because they've got quite a few picks, and I think they'll probably like to Maybe not so much the Spurs now that they have Cornet. That's been working out a lot better than they probably hope. But the Wizards, that's a team we talked about it. They're probably going to be looking for another big somewhere. So any team with a lot of picks need another big. That's who trying to get on the phone with.
Yeah, I think I think the likeliest outcome here, if they were to trade Zubats, is it would be with one of the teams that just flat does not have a starting center, right? Like Indiana or Atlanta or Boston. Although I think Keita
Yeah.
is like a viable starting center, and I'm happy enough with Okongwu that I don't feel like I need to force it. But I think those are the teams that are going to be most eager to trade. And I know like they're not going to do it for off court reasons. The Lakers would make a lot of sense for Zubats too. I don't think they could do
Yeah.
it right now. I don't think they have the draft capital, but maybe over the summer that's something they could revisit.
So with Boston, they're gonna have to trade at least 2 firsts, and
Give me 2032 when they're old.
they only have 2 to trade anyways right now. And that's
Yeah, I'll
while
take this year
also
and I'll
in the
take 32.
process likely trading Simons in that trade. I think it's just there's a lot of complications, I think, in the Celtics getting a deal done for Zubats. Indiana, a little more likely because even if they don't want to trade multiple firsts, they could probably get pretty close when you factor in Matherin. Maybe the Clippers maybe they'll want to take a shot on Jarris Walker, even though he hasn't been playing very well. But you could probably get pretty close with Matherin in like one extra first, maybe a swap on top of that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. If I were the Clippers, I'd like the idea of having Matherin. Like, who was the last highly drafted, athletic, high upside guy the Clippers have had? And the answer is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah. I would just try to push for those types of deals that I proposed where, okay, maybe it's not the best fit as good as Indiana, but you're more likely to get a little more. So I'd understand if deep down they don't feel compelled to move Zubats if they're getting a Matherin and one Pacers pick offer, knowing the Pacers are probably going to be awesome in the next few years. Like a 2028, probably have to be the most distant one just to get started, the 2032.
Hypothetical here. What if you did a reverse protection on 2026? Like, what if you get the 2026 pick if it's between 5 and 30 or something?
Yeah, the Pacers can trade their pick with the protection
I
or
got
a
that
reverse
backwards,
protection.
but you get the idea.
They can, if you're talking about like when the Raptors traded a pick that's supposed to be a lottery pick to the Sixers, like the Rockets. I mean, when the Rockets traded Kyle Lowry to the Raptors, and the Raptors traded not a lottery protected pick, it's like a reverse lottery protected pick. Like the Rockets only get it if it goes in the lottery. I mean, the Pacers could do either or.
So yeah, I mean, I got a little jumbled up there. I think you wouldn't do that with 26, but like, you 27, 28, 29, 30, the first lottery pick we get is yours or something. And then if we don't get a lottery pick in that window, it's just the last unprotected pick or something.
I don't think we've seen that trade since the Lowry trade, as far as I can recall.
I don't believe we have either, no.
Yeah. All right, anything else, or should we move on to the other LA team?
Other LA team.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we're back, we're going to do the Lakers. And we're back, this time on the Los Angeles Lakers. A pretty complicated season so far. Started out really well, and now their flaws are starting to get a little more exposed. So they remain one of the only teams in the top 6 in the West with a negative net rating, 24th in defense. So assuming the plan is to keep Luka and Reeves as your backcourt of the future, there's a lot of surgery that needs to be done throughout the roster and all the other starting positions to surround them with. They could do a lot better than LeBron right now, who he's probably on the way out anyways, better than that Rui Laravia slot, a whole lot better than Aiden. So the Lakers have a tall task of trying to reconstruct this roster over the next few years because it's going to be very different. If you've been following the Lakers for a while, you're probably pretty used to them reshuffling the roster every 2 years, and it's probably coming up again pretty soon. But as far as them trying to make a significant change to address all their issues, that's probably not coming this year. That's not realistic. They only have one first round pick to trade. They'll probably want to keep it anyways because they're ideally going to want to have the opportunity to trade 3 in the summer. I don't know how feasible that is either. I don't know if they're going to have a shot at Giannis or anyone like that. But in the offseason, you're basically looking at trying to convert those picks and your cap space into hopefully 2 to 4 rotation players that have two-way ability. I think that's kind of the goal at the very least. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to look like. I'm a little apprehensive that they'll be able to pull it off either now or in the offseason. Uh, as far as what they could do now, I think they're going to try to do stuff with their pick swaps. They can trade all their pick swaps in the even numbered years. So they could trade up to 4. I don't know how valuable those are. Very few teams in the league value them. I have some ideas of what to do. So I'll have some trades, but anything you want to add to that?
Okay, so there are a couple of things. First of all, I don't even think pick swaps are really going to be on the table. I think it's going to be a matter of basically, does anybody with an expiring contract like Rui Hachimura more than that expiring contract, which we brought up with Jonathan Kuminga as an idea. I have another one that we'll get to, but basically, I don't think they're willing to give up anything in the future. There's kind of the immediate roster problem that the team is so unathletic, it's so slow, it's so deficient defensively. There are so few players on this year's team that I think are safe locks, whatever, to be on next year's team or to be a part of the core for the next few years. Like, I feel pretty confident that Luka's going to be around, that Reeves is going to be around. I think Laravia at least will be there next year. He's a free agent in 2027, but I think he's certainly played up to that contract. And then after that, like, there were Laker fans saying in November, like, DeAndre Ayton's a $25 million player and we're going to re-sign him. It's going to be great. Like, he's not closing anymore. At least he didn't close against Milwaukee the other night. The defense has been a mess. The offense is not at least what I think you're looking for out of a Luka center. That's not to say he's been bad on offense, but I don't think he really fits the mold. So I'm looking up and down this roster and it's like, you have to remake an entire team. And by the way, they've now done that several times in the last 4, 5, 6 years. You can't keep recycling an entire roster every offseason, right? Like, you have to, at a certain point, build a team that you expect to have for 3 or 4 years at least. Like, maybe you're not going to be the Thunder where you think you could have the same team for 8 to 10 years, but you have to put a team together that you think is actually going to be able to develop some continuity and like go to war together and get better together. They haven't had that in so long. And like, on top of all of this, everything else, like all of these concerns were valid and were known about in the past. We assumed that they were going to be great on offense just by virtue of having Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. They're ranked 11th. Like, they're not a top 10 offense. You know how crazy that is,
Yeah.
given the 3 guys that they have? Can I just read you the offensive profile right now? This is so insane to me. The Lakers have the best free throw rate in the NBA. They have the highest 2-point field goal percentage in NBA history. They are shooting over 60% on twos, and they are not a top 10 offense because they rank 25th in 3-point percentage. They never get out in the break. Not a great rebounding team. Like, I'm just dumbfounded by this. How can you have 3 creators this good and not have a top 10 offense? It's kind of embarrassing. They're going to have to remake the entire team, and they can't do anything at this year's deadline with the idea of like, oh, we're going to get better this year at the expense of the future. If you're doing anything at the deadline this year, it's because you think it makes sense for the future. If
All
you're
right.
trading for Herb Jones, would he help this year's team? Like, yes. You could keep Herb Jones for 5 years and feel good. Could you trade for Andrew Wiggins? It would be patently irresponsible to trade for a 31-year-old because we need a 3-and-D wing now. Like, that's ridiculous.
All right. I'm going to grasp at some straws here, and you let me know how ridiculous you think it is. Hopefully, maybe you think there could be some legs to this. But I'll get back to those pick swaps because there's really only 2 teams in the league that really value pick swaps: the Thunder and the Spurs. So if you're the Lakers or any team hoping to convert your pick swaps into something that could help you now, you're gonna have to deal with the devil because these teams don't necessarily have anything to give to the Lakers or any other team, but they can act as facilitators and you're going to be helping them in the long run. So let's just say I was looking into something and let me just spell out the whole trade and let me know what you think. So let's say, as an example, the Lakers trade their 2030 and 2032 first round pick swaps to the Thunder. I'm guessing the Thunder would want them as late as possible. In exchange, the Thunder send the Lakers the two 2026 first round picks are both the lesser of the Clippers, Sixers, Rockets, because the Thunder are going to want to get rid of them. They're not going to want to have more than one first round pick. They're going to want just the best one in this upcoming draft. They kind of have some work ahead of them to figure out what to do with those extra picks ahead of the draft. So then they do that. Now they have these two first round picks to trade with. This kind of dovetails with my Cavs trade deadline of what I would do if I'm them. Essentially, it's a 4-teamer. So the Lakers send out Maxi Kleber and Gabe Vincent, expiring salaries. They bring in Jared Allen. The Cavs are getting Daniel Gafford from the Mavs, and then the lesser of those 26 first-round picks. It's a lot of info. I know when I put the video, I'm going to have the whole Fanspo trade shown on the screen. The Mavs are getting the better pick in Vincent, save some money, and then the Wizards facilitate. They use the trade exception to take on Kleber and get 2 seconds from the Cavs. It's a stretch, but any team with not looking to trade picks and have swaps to trade, that's kind of the blueprint where you trade these outward swaps and hope to get some present first round picks that you can then flip for later trades. It's the same thing the Mavs did. That's how they got Daniel Gafford in the first place. They traded a swap to the Wizards. The Wizards gave them a first, and then they did that trade with the Thunder, and then they used that first from the Thunder to get Gafford from the Wizards.
Yeah, I think you're probably overshooting the value of those swaps. I think the Thunder might think about 1 pick for 2 swaps from the Lakers. I don't think they would do 2 picks for 2 swaps. Like, especially with the Lakers, when there is the chance that they just have Luka that whole time and they fire Rob Pelinka and hire like a real GM and are well run with Mark Walters paying all the bills and money isn't an issue for them. 2 picks for 2 swaps is ridiculous. 1 pick for 2 swaps if it's the worst one that they have. So the worst pick they have, like, how far down could they go? Like, is there anything worse than Philly? It's Clippers, Philly, and Utah.
And
they're not going to get
Houston,
probably, right?
Houston.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
If it was just the Houston pick for 2 swaps, I think that does make sense. And maybe the Lakers would want the Philly pick. Like, I think the Philly pick for 2 swaps does make a fair amount of sense. That's like the number 20 pick for 2 swaps with a lot of upside, but you can build your team now. And the other advantage of getting that pick is you can just use it on a player. You don't have to improve this year's team. If the idea is building something sustainable around Luka and Austin Reeves, it'd be kind of nice to make some first round picks. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to just getting a first round pick and using it. And I don't know who's going to be I guess I don't know who the scouting department is going to be because they got rid of the younger bus kids. We assume Rob Pelinka is going to be the GM. Grown. It kind of amazes me, by the way, that we haven't gotten more reporting about Rob Pelinka's potential job security, just given that Magic Johnson is a partial owner of the Dodgers, and we very much know what Magic Johnson's opinion of Rob Pelinka is. And you wonder, like, you would assume that he would be whispering into Mark Walters' ear, like, hey, Rob's not the guy. And by the way, Magic Johnson doesn't have to be the only one doing that because we're doing it here and everybody on the internet's doing it. Like, I would feel a lot better about them if they had a GM that anybody thought was good, but they don't. So yeah, I think like that's kind of telling. Like, I hate to toot my own horn at all here, but like we were texting over the weekend about basically a niche cap idea that I had about giving Jackson Hayes an inflated contract just for the sake of creating tradable salary next year. And I posted that on Twitter, just like, oh, I think there will be a small audience of people who are into that. And the most common response I got was like, Rob Pelinka's never thinking of this. Like, he's never thinking of doing any of these like niche cap moves that would like give you an extra thing to trade with. Like, he's the guy that maybe didn't know what pick swaps were in the Your Own Weitzman book. Like, I think that's the most important thing. Is I would like it if they had a new GM, but that's kind of unlikely. It seems like there hasn't been any reporting behind it, at least.
We'll push back on, for what it's worth. The Thunder, when they did that trade with the Clippers, when they took a 2027 pick swap from the Clippers in 2023 to facilitate them getting Harden. They traded one first to.
There's a big difference. I'm stopping you right there.
Well,
There's
hold
a
on,
huge difference.
That was only 4 years out from when they traded that pick. They gave them their 28 back, no, their 26 back, and they got a 27 swap. Then in the trade deadline, they get a Mavs 28 swap and trade them their 26 pick, whatever they had. I forgot whose pick it was. Maybe in the Mavs zone.
Those situations were totally different. With the Clippers, one swap was genuinely worth one pick because of how old Kawhi and Harden and Paul George was on the team were. Like, that was targeted. That was smart. They were trying to get a swap in a specific year, which they thought was going to be the height of, like, this version of the Clippers is done, but they won't have enough time to have built the next version of the team. Like, they were targeting a specific year. With the Mavericks, the swap they got was 1 year after Luka was originally going to be a free agent. So the thought was, we're getting the swap the first year after Luka might leave. It's different now that he's on the Lakers because nobody leaves the Lakers. Like, you're just basically hoping for catastrophe at that point.
Either way, they did take a swap from a team that had Luka, and these particular swaps would be theoretically after his contract ends. So we could just leave it at that.
It's 2 for 1, I think. Like, you're not getting two picks for two swaps.
But either way, that is kind of like the best case scenario of what they're hoping for if they're trying to really save their season now and then keep their first round picks for something splashy in the offseason. Like, really try to maximize whatever value they have. Anything else before any other trades you want to get into?
I have a lot of stuff. First of all, I want to just talk about the idea of 3-and-D wings for a second, because we can all acknowledge that's the thing that the Lakers need. I just want to raise this question. How many 3-and-D wings do you think there are in the league?
True 3-and-D wings, probably no more than 20.
I went to Dunks and Threes. It's a great website, has a lot of great statistical information. And I looked for players under the following parameters. At least 36% on three-pointers. I didn't even look at volume. And then afterward, it was like, there were some guys with one shot, so I took them off. So at least 3 attempts, 36%, and a DEPM of at least +1. How many players at shooting guard, small forward, and power forward do you think I found?
I was saying no more than 20. I'll stick to that.
5. Moses Moody, Jaden McDaniels, Paul George, Kevin Porter Jr. for some reason, and Franz Wagner. There aren't that many players that consistently both defend the perimeter very well and always make their threes. It's a very, very short list. I think fans have this idea that you can always trade a first round pick for a PJ Washington. The reality of that is PJ Washington was just not a very good shooter before he got to Dallas, and he wasn't a very good defender either, for that matter. They saw somebody that they thought would be better in their situation, and they ended up being right. Most of the time, when you're trading for a 3-and-D player, you're not trading for Herb Jones. You're not trading for this guy that everybody wants. For the most part, those guys either get traded to the Knicks, drafted by the Thunder, or they just don't move. Most of the time, you're trading for somebody flawed with the idea that we can make them better. I think that's the way the Lakers need to think about finding their 3-and-D wings. Whether that's signing Peyton Watson as a restricted free agent next offseason, or drafting somebody with a first-round pick that either you keep your own or you trade for somebody else's or whatever. I think this idea that the Lakers are just going to be able to cherry pick the perfect Luka supporting cast is kind of far-fetched. And I would just put this idea in people's heads. There are not that many 3-and-D wings out there. There are not that many rim-running, rim-protecting big men. This is going to be difficult, and this is part of why I think changing GMs is so important. I flat out would not trust Rob Pelinka to find these players. If you look at the common denominator of the kinds of players that Rob Pelinka chases, it's guys who used to be famous and guys who were drafted high. Why are we surprised that DeAndre Ayton is playing exactly like DeAndre Ayton? How many guys have the Lakers added under basically those same parameters of former high draft pick, guy who used to make a lot of money, flawed enough that his existing team didn't want him anymore, and the Blazers are paying DeAndre Ayton a lot of money not to play for them. And of course the Lakers were going to get him, and of course he's like not playing as well as they would have hoped. Like you go up and down their recent history, their recent rosters, you just find a million examples like that. Like they fundamentally need to change the way that they evaluate players, the sort of players that they target. They need to be more open to making moves, and I'll even give them some credit for this, making moves like Jake LaRavia, where they saw a guy who was undervalued on another team, went out and got him, and he has more or less been what they've expected. They have to be able to take some risks and say, this guy hasn't been as good where he currently is as we need him to be, but we think he could be better for us. That's the end game here. If they can't do that, they have no chance of building a championship in the next 5 years.
So a couple things. One, the three and D can often wax and wane. Sometimes you've got a player that was really good defensively. They start to take on more of an offensive role. The D starts to slip a little bit.
Mikal Bridges.
But now the D starting to come back a little bit more. But he's exactly who I was thinking. And then you mentioned Herb Jones. He was never really a 3 and D guy. The 3 was there
in a couple
of
years.
Year. It was like 1 year, basically.
Wasn't he shooting well early this season? I haven't looked at his numbers in a while.
He's like at 33%, which isn't terrible for him for standards, but either way, it seems like you mentioned OKC. They got 3 and D guards, and that seems to be the new frontier now. Yeah, a 3 and D wing that's 6'7", 6'8", that hits threes and defends really well. Yeah, they're really. They're more unicorn than reality. They're really hard to find. And even when you do have them, they're not guaranteed to hit on both ends consistently. But with OKC, they've got so many guys, like they don't got the size, but Dort, Caruso, J-Dub, Cason Wallace, obviously, SGA is pretty big, but all these guys defend really well, and they've just got so many ball stoppers. And I think we're going to start to see some more teams try to not neglect size, but try to get those types of players to copy the Thunder a little bit. Not at the Magic we're copying them, but between Suggs and Anthony Black, like, wow, that is like the dream guard rotation, probably second closest kind of to the Thunder in terms of having like 3 and D guards. And then to your point about the Lakers, like you're basically kind of talking about their foundation. The Thunder, they drafted all these guys, this stacked cast of guards and defenders. For the most part, they drafted all of them. Like the Lakers right now, they don't really have anything close to that foundation.
I just think you need to start building around some certainty. You can't just say like, oh no, next year is the year that like now we'll have an extra first round pick. How many times in the last 5 years have we had serious Lakers conversations that involved waiting until the offseason when they'd have one more pick to trade? I feel like this is the 4th or the 5th time we've had some version of this conversation. You have to actually build a team at a certain point that you want to keep.
Yeah. One last thing, now that you mentioned LeBron, is that I think the fastest way the Lakers could turn the season around would be if they are able to trade LeBron. Now that's going to be hard because he's got that no trade clause. The teams that he was linked to early on in the offseason, if he were to leave, were like the Cavs. They can't trade for him. The Mavs, that doesn't make sense now. Do you think now with us,
Mavs would make sense for Austin Reeves?
Now that we're roughly halfway through the season and we know what the standings are, do you think there's maybe a different team that A, he would sign off on, and B, would potentially bring him in midseason?
Nobody has the money to make it work. It's the $53 million contract. Nobody has $53 million in matching salary lying around. Like in basketball terms, I actually really like the idea of Atlanta. Like I brought that up to you when we were doing the Trae Young podcast, where like if they could have done that as a 3-teamer, where like CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert went to the Lakers and LeBron went to the Hawks, I think that would have been very, very interesting. But nobody has the money, and like, how many teams would LeBron realistically sign off on? Right? It's Cleveland, which can't because of the second apron. The Knicks, who can't because of the second apron. The Warriors, who just aren't good enough. And I just think he understands how damaging that would be, like, to a certain subset of fans from a legacy perspective. I don't think he wants to put on a 4th jersey. So I just don't think it's feasible. I think he will. My guess has been that he's going to retire with Cleveland next year.
So the only, I'm just wondering if like, it's like two teams that come to mind for me. I'm just kind of putting the math together. One would be maybe the Spurs, and then maybe the Pistons, where these teams they could make the money work. I don't know if I'm either of those teams if I want to mess with what I got going, even if
No,
that means bringing in LeBron.
that it's not worth it anymore. It's
Yeah,
just it's too seismic. Those teams are both so happy with where they
yeah,
are. There's total harmony in their locker rooms. They're good enough to win their conferences right now. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's not worth
So
it.
it's not going to happen, but I just bring it up because it's not that LeBron has a lot of trade value, but that's $50 million. If you can turn him in, like that's an easy way to, if he was on the market, you could turn him into two of the types of players you're looking for. Uh, in a perfect world, they do that, but there are just too many things going on with his contract and the way the league is where it just won't happen. They'll probably just run out his contract.
I have one
Uh,
last trade that's like just simple expirings. Just gonna put this out there and then we can move on. Rui Hachimura, Dalton Connect, and Adu Thero for Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle, Ryan Rupert, and Dwap Reith.
so who are the main players go now? Rui for
It's
who?
basically Rui Hachimura for Robert Williams and Matisse Thybulle.
I think you brought this up before. Um, it seems like just another low risk thing.
Yeah, it's just a way to reshuffle some of your money
Yeah,
so that like everybody's just trading expirings here, right? We don't think many of these guys are going to be on the same team next year.
yeah,
The idea is just like, hey, Portland, you could use a little bit more shooting. We need more defense. So we'll take your injury prone guys and Time Lord and Thibault, and like we'll see if we can make it work. And if not, well, Rui didn't really fit with us anyway, so no harm done.
yeah. No, I think that's really well put. Just reshuffling expirings. That's it. Just see maybe you guys do a little better. All right, then. So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will move on to the Phoenix Suns. And we're back. Now we're gonna discuss the Phoenix Suns. They're legit. I don't know what else to say.
Finally, you're finally conceding it.
Okay. They're good this year. I'm not, as far as their outlook, I'm not conceding anything. Beyond this year, we'll see. But they're now the 6th seed in the West. They're in that morass of 6 teams that are separated by like 4.5 games, it looks like. So they're in good company. Right now, they're like in that boat of teams like the Spurs and Pistons, albeit different circumstances, but they're in that boat where all these teams are just performing way above their expectations, that everything's just kind of like chill, and these teams are probably not going to do that much. Suns are a little different. Maybe they ride the wave a little bit, but it's a little different because the Suns don't have anything they could trade. They have no first round picks they could trade. I don't really think they have really much swaps to trade. They've traded swaps on swaps. Not sure what their second round pick situation is. I think they might have no picks either. They can't trade their 2032. It's frozen. So while the team is doing well, there's very little means, if any, to make an upgrade. There isn't anyone that really jumps out on their roster that has like strong positive value. Obviously, there's Dylan Brooks, Mark Williams. I don't think they're looking to trade those guys. I think they're going to want to extend them, resign them this summer. But then you look at some of their role players like Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, who are playing a lot well. Don't really think a lot of teams are going to be going out of the way to try to get any of those guys. Jalen Green's a guy we've mentioned in trade just because of his salary, but he's barely played. So when you combine all that, I would probably just play things out if I'm the Suns. They might not really have a choice anyways. The one thing I have mentioned before is that if I'm the Suns, maybe just try to cash in on some of their role players, or just try to get off those contracts. You could create some more flexibility. Like if you got a team willing to take on Grayson Allen for an expiring contract, I'd probably strongly consider it. If you can get like maybe a second round pick for Royce O'Neal or two, I'd probably consider it. Like as an example, there was a report that the Raptors offered Ochai Agbaji in a second for Nick Richards, and that
Wait,
would
really?
have, yeah, I think
I
at
guess that would have
first
taken them further into the tax.
I want to say Michael Scotto first reported that there was discussions about that type of trade happening, and then I want to say Gerald Bourguet on his Patreon reported like the exact details, and the offer was Agbaji in a second for Nick Richards, and the Suns declined it.
Well, I get
What?
that because that would have been Toronto's tax ducking move, and the Suns don't really have another way to duck the tax.
Well, I think you're only increasing your salary by 1 million. You could probably find,
Yeah,
you
but
could probably
this
get
is
below
about
the
the
tax
repeater.
later.
No, this is about
Yes,
the repeater more than anything. Like you're trying to get below the tax this year and stay below the tax next year to reset your repeater clock. So I think the obvious thing that the Suns are going to do is trade Nick Richards to like the Wizards or the Nets or the Jazz or whoever just to duck the tax. That's like the first order of business for them. And the Raptors are doing something similar. Like I don't think they want Nick Richards. I think they just want to get off of Akbaji and duck the tax themselves.
yeah. But as far when you take away the tax situation aside, I think like, and I like Agbaji, but when you put him aside, getting a second for Nick Richards, who's your third string big man, I think I would have taken that.
I don't.
Um,
If you have to have another way to duck the tax, and they don't have one. He's the only really contract. Considering they also only have 14 players, by the way, they can't just dump a minimum and go from 15 to 14. Like I'm not doing anything to take on payroll right now, unless it's like a game changer.
yeah, it's tough though. I think they could probably figure something out. Like if you're bringing in a I mean, I don't know. Anyway, but just with the tax situation aside, like those are the types of deals I'd be looking for from the Suns. Uh, do you have any trades? Anything you want to touch on?
Yeah. So next year, right now, they only have 21.6 million in luxury tax room, and they have to re-sign Mark Williams, Colin Gillespie, and Jordan Goodwin, who all of whom are like important parts of this year's team and probably cumulatively are going to command a lot more than 21.6 million. So I would be looking into ways right now of trading Jalen Green to save money for next year. And there isn't that much out there. I did find one idea that I kind of like, which is Jalen Green to Memphis for Contavious Caldwell Pope, Jock Landale, and GG Jackson. I think, sure, the Grizzlies, they're trading John Morant. Like, why not see if you could, with your great player development infrastructure, take on a great athlete, top pick in Jalen Green, and see if you could make this work. And then if you're the Suns, you save $7 million this year, so you duck the tax. Yay, you can go back to Toronto and make your Agbaji trade. You also have the full mid level to use as a buyout weapon, like if you want to try to sign somebody before the playoffs. But most importantly, you get players who can help you this year. Most like I think KCP would be useful for the Suns this year. So that's helpful. And then next year, obviously KCP making way less than Green. He has one fewer year on the deal. Something to consider.
So sorry, it was Jalen Green for KCP and what else?
Jock Landale and Gigi Jackson. Like you just
Okay.
Memphis had to add a little bit more money to make it work.
Okay. Yeah, I've thought about Jalen Green as a potential Grizzly, more so not someone that the Grizzlies would pursue, but if they ever trade Ja or Jaren, and it's like a bigger part of a multi-team trade, maybe the Grizzlies just end up taking Jalen Green because feels like whenever they do end up trading Ja, they're probably going to take on some bad money, and there's like a lot of guys, whether it's like quickly. Jalen Green also kind of fits that bill. Like they might just end up spending time in Memphis, but I'm with you. I know they're hoping to like. What is the realistic best case scenario of like how Jalen Green's gonna work? Because we touched on in the last episode, we don't think Jalen's gonna start at this point.
Colin Gillespie
I
is
think
way too good.
yeah, Gillespie's got that role locked up. You can't pay the guy $33.5 million to come off the bench in the long run.
Well, even if you
They already
could look at the rest of their bench, like Grayson Allen is very important to them.
yep.
Jordan Goodwin, very important to them. Like they have a deep backcourt. I don't know where the minutes for Jalen Green are coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, what are the minutes like? You can just play a little bit smaller Like you have Jordan and Jalen Green as your primary backcourt guys, and you move Grayson and Dunn primarily as front court minutes. Like they'll find the minutes for him, but it's not going to be that long. Um, I'm sure like they're gonna naturally they're gonna want to play it out. They're gonna want to see how he fits. They're gonna want to know for sure. But I'm mostly judging from his time in Houston. I don't think he's really gonna help the Suns. They mostly brought him in as salary matching. Um, so if you can just save money on the deal, just get a player who's making like has as many years left over, but you can save some money. Yeah, I'm for it. I think that's what the Suns probably end up doing at some point.
He's a lottery ticket, basically. Like, just given the physical gifts, there's a 5% chance that he's going to be like a star or something close to it. But everything we've seen thus far suggests that he is not likely to become that player. And he's not being paid quite at that level, but he's not far off either. I don't know. I would just be thinking, if I'm the Suns, how can I do everything in my power to keep this year's team together without paying the luxury tax next year? And trading Jalen Green is by far the easiest way to do that. That Bradley Beal contract, the $20 million in dead money, is just killing them.
Yeah. I don't really have too much else on the Suns. Do you have any other trades you had in on your mind?
I just wanted to bring up Jonathan Kuminga because they were linked to him in the offseason, but Dylan Brooks trading him now as a non-starter. And I don't think there's a way to really make the money work with Golden State and Jalen Green. Would Golden State even want Jalen Green?
No, no
No?
chance.
No. So I don't think there's really anything there, but just given the rumors, I feel like we should address it at least. So we just agree there's not a trade there?
No, I agree. Um, just kind of a long-term discussion. What's your feel on the Suns as far as what, uh, especially factoring how well they're playing this year? Has that changed at all? What you feel like might happen with Devin Booker in the shorter long term?
I mean, it's too far out to say like, oh, he'll be happy in 2030. I think we still think that contract extension is going to look bad by the end. I think like I haven't checked the shooting in a little bit, but early in the season the shooting was kind of shaky. He was not really in the All-Star mix for me until somewhat recently. I don't know. Like, he's a low end all star who's going to be making $70 million in a few years. Still probably an overpay. I think your idea, if you're Phoenix, is just string together 2 or 3 years where you look competent, where you're in the playoff race, and then maybe enough of your deep future picks will unlock that you can like maybe try to make an impact move at that point, or like maybe you'll have hit on some other lottery ticket, right? Where like maybe Malawatch grows into like, wow, he was super raw, but now we think we have an all-star on our hands. Or like maybe, wow,
Yeah.
Gillespie is taking the leap that Austin Reeves has taken. Like, you're kind of just biding your time at this point, I think, and then hoping in 2 or 3 years you have some path to like a real jump. As of right now, though, like, you're enjoying this feel good season. I would just do everything in my power to keep it together.
Yeah, they certainly bought time if there, if for whatever reason maybe there wasn't, if there was any pressure because uh if things went south, maybe we'd be hearing his name in trade rumors. He actually just became trade eligible an hour ago. It's been
Do
exactly
you
now
think
6 months
that
since he signed
like
that extension.
if they had been like below 500 this year, do you think we'd be talking about him the way we talk about Trey Young and John Morant? I think
No.
even that, no. Like, I just because he is a much better shooter than those guys, and
Yes.
like he's not a good defender, but he's much better than those guys are.
Yeah, but I just bring it up because, as you mentioned, that contract extension we both agree was pretty unnecessary given the amount of time he had left on the deal. I still think it'll probably be the most negative value contract going forward, but I think the season that they're having and the way he's playing, like he's definitely had a significant rebound season compared to in previous years. I feel like if they put him on the market, they'd probably get some pretty good positive value for him. Um, I was feeling like this is a pretty big turnaround from like a cup before the season started. I felt like, okay, well now they gave him this deal. Like who's gonna want him? Because I think part of the value of acquiring Booker when he would only have a couple more years left on his contract, is then you have a little more negotiation window to try to get him on something maybe a little more team friendly, and that's gone. But like I was looking at some Booker trades, and they're not going to trade him, but I think there's actually some pretty good value that they could potentially get. maybe now or next year if that ever happened. Like the Nets obviously can offer a lot of picks. Um, you brought up Portland as an Austin Reeves team. I kind of felt the same vein for Booker. If you want to upgrade from Sharp, like could you get Sharp, Scoot, Grant, and maybe 2 firsts for Booker and Grant?
Where does that really take you though? Like you're just hoping that Scoot or Shaden is like one of them pops. Otherwise, like you're hopeless until 2033.
I'm just saying that might be. I think that's like a pretty good value to get for Booker at this point with this contract that he's got on his books. If, I think that'd be a
I don't
pretty
know.
good outcome if they ever decided to trade. We know they're not
Yeah,
going to trade
they're
him.
never going to decide.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
given everything both parties have been through here, this is if he asks, then we talk about it. But I think they're kind of stuck together now
Yeah.
until he doesn't want to be there. And it
I'm just
doesn't
saying,
seem, at least for now,
yeah.
that that's happening anytime soon.
I'm just saying personally in my mind, he's regained some trade value. Just how long would that last? Probably not too long.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like when we're talking about it coldly from the outside, it's
Yeah.
very different than just the reality of being in the NBA.
Anything else on the Suns?
I think we're all set.
All right, we'll take one last break, and when we are back, the Sacramento Kings. And we're back. The Sacramento Kings. They should be having a fire sale. They're worst team in the West right now. They just beat the Lakers a couple hours ago. But as of now, they are still third in Tankathon. But either way, they're probably looking to offload whoever they can. They just
Can I zag
a
here?
lot of teams just don't. They just don't really have too many things that other teams want. What?
I think the Kings might have figured out how to tank in the modern era in a way that all of these other teams that were designed to tank haven't. Like you look at the Nets, you look at the Jazz, you look at these teams that like go into years intending to get high picks and it's like, "Oh no, our young genius coach and our feisty young players are stealing wins with effort and creativity alone." And what the Kings have realized is that in this era where effort and versatility are king, the way to tank is to hire a former player who's not really qualified as the head coach and to get a bunch of former all-star guards and just say like, yeah, guys, like you guys are stars, go get your buckets and not really do anything else. Like I kind of want them to just keep this team together because it's going to help them get so many high draft picks. Just let these contracts expire naturally. And 2 years from now, you might have like 2 top 5 picks ready to build around.
Well, you should have pitched that to them maybe 4 or 5 years ago when they should have continued tanking instead of just going forward after getting like Keegan Murray.
I mean, the Fox Sabonis team was fun enough that, like, fine, I was happy to lean into that team, and they broke it up way faster than we thought they were going to. But like, they tried to trade for Alex Caruso in the summer that they got DeMar, and if they'd made that trade, I think that team is like maybe still together now and like somewhat competitive and interesting. Blah blah blah. Like, if that team had run its course and been together 3, 4, 5 years, fine. Like that team was fun enough to justify it. The current team, all I'm thinking about is how do I maximize my odds of a number 1 pick?
Yeah.
And frankly, they're doing just fine with that on their own. So I don't know if you really want to mess with anything.
Yeah, I think they should be in a good spot to get a high pick this year and probably next year at the very least. If you're the Kings, you've got Keegan. You're going to get a high pick this year. And then in the next year, I would imagine they're probably going to just try to be good after that. Would you, knowing the Kings, I think I'd want one more year in the gutter just for good measure, right?
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Like, you want to cycle out these veterans with the hope that the next team can be, I guess, Keegan Murray. I think they probably think, like, oh, we'll try to re sign Keon Ellis. I don't think they will be successful in that endeavor, so they should probably trade him. And then the picks and whatever guys that we add, like, we know they're interested in Jonathan Kuminga. Maybe if they were to get him, he could be a part of whatever comes next. Like, there is not that much in the cupboard right now that I think is going to be a part of the next team. You're really just thinking about tanking right now.
Yeah. So the only untouchables are looks like Keegan Murray, Nick Clifford. I wouldn't call Reynaud untouchable, but I'm sure it looks like they're probably going to hold on to him. So let's just go player by player. see if we have anything that makes sense. The only Zach LaVine making that $47.5 million salary. The only viable trade I see for him, I'm gonna go back to my bag from when we did that Who Says No episode. We just came up with trades. I did pitch something that sent him to the Wizards. I revised it. I think this one's a little better. So the Wizards are traded for Trae Young. They still have a bunch of cap space next year, but they have Chris Middleton's expiring salary. I'm sure the Kings would love to turn LaVine's salary into that and save a bunch of money. So here's the trade. Zach LaVine and Dennis Schroeder go to the Wizards for Chris Middleton, Malachi Branham. So essentially, you're doing Middleton and Branham for LaVine, and then they're taking Schroeder into their mid-level. So the Kings save a lot of money, both this year and next year. In exchange, the Kings are sending the Spurs 2027 first-round pick. So this first-round pick, it's protected. It's a conveyable if it's 17 through 30. So outside the lottery for the most part. So that pick, based on what we're seeing right now, seems like a good bet to convey. And then the Wizards give the Kings 5 second-round picks. So this would be very similar to that trade that they made with the Sixers last year when the Sixers traded them what's going to be the Thunder pick, saved them some money, and then they got 5 seconds. The Wizards have like a ton of second-round picks to spare, but this for the Kings, you get off LaVine's money for next year, Schroeder's money for next year, so you go from being a tax team, if you keep this roster together, as crazy as it sounds, to potentially having cap space next year. What do you think of that valuation?
I don't even think you'd have to give up the second rounders. I think just that's a weak enough first round pick that capped up. They're saving like 30 million this year, 25 million this year, and next year. And next year it's more like 50, right?
So it's not that the Kings need to save money this year. They're already under the tax. But I'm trying to find more way. I'm trying to find more ways, like another way for the Wizards to take on some extra money for next year, because I don't think if the Wizards are going to want a first if they're taking on LaVine. I don't think trading that Spurs first, even though most likely it's going to be very late. Like I feel like that's kind of a lot for LaVine. So to add a little more value, the Wizards have some trade exceptions. They have their full mid-level still. They could absorb Dennis Schroeder with that. Just straight up take him. So that's more about saving money next year. So to get a little more value, I felt like that makes it a little more fair. Yeah, you're right. You know what? You're right. Maybe they don't need to trade 5 seconds. Maybe just like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I don't think the seconds are even really necessary. The other issue that I encounter here is Washington is not going into next season with Trae Young and Zach LaVine on the team. Like that, none of their young guys would ever take a shot. You would have to buy out LaVine or redirect him in some way. Like you're not bringing both those guys onto your team next year. No way.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Maybe there's a similar type of framework you could do with the Utah Jazz right now. So you send him for Nurkic, Kyle Anderson. It's going to be kind of tough to make the money work, actually. I don't know how they do without dipping into their rookie scale guys. But yeah, there's something. That's the kind of framework I think the Kings are probably going to have to go to if you're going to get off LaVine. It's tough. It's tough because they could use all the picks, all the chances they could use to get some young players. I think they're looking at something pretty similar for DeMar DeRozan too, but not nearly as severe. Like they probably don't need to trade a first. How many seconds do you think it's going to take to get another team interested, whether it's like the Nets or Wizards, just to take DeRozan on, knowing he's got that $10 million partial guarantee for next year?
Yeah, the question is who's willing to eat 10 million in dead money. And this one, I think the Wizards make more sense because for them, it's just about reaching the salary floor. And that's a part of why they did it for Trae Young. Yeah, any team with cap space next year that doesn't have active plans for the money. So you're talking about the Wizards, you're talking about the Nets, you're talking about the Jazz. Any team in that range, you're probably, I'm going to say 3-4 second round picks, probably.
Yeah. I haven't checked how many seconds they have, but that would be something where, okay, let's say you can get those seconds.
You're going to trade Keon Ellis for a bunch of seconds, so you'll restock the coffers there.
I was saying, let's say you could actually do that LaVine trade and you get some seconds. if you get 3 seconds from that swap, from that pick swap, can you maybe flip those to get off DeRozan? So you're getting off DeRozan and Levine
That's
in like
another way to
the
do
same
it.
deal. We'll see if that's even possible, but that would be ideal. Okay, so Sabonis, the big one. So I think they should still be able to trade him. On our last episode, you made a compelling case about why there should be some teams that could consider still trading for AD despite the injury, mostly teams that are out of it but are looking to build towards next year. I think that analogy is a little more apt for Sabonis, especially because he'll probably be back. He'll probably be back soon. He hasn't played for a while, so if there's a team looking to build next year, they could probably even make a run now when he comes back. I know the Raptors are interested. I saw Jake Fisher report that the Kings do not want Emmanuel Quickly or Jakob Pertl. I agree with them. I would need at least 2 first-round picks to take that Pertl contract, which seems like a non-starter. So I
This is a
wouldn't.
big thing between us and nobody else. That Pirtle contract is one of the most insane
Yeah,
extensions I ever remember. What he had 2 years left on his deal. What was the
yeah,
motivation? Was he going to
yeah.
demand a trade if you hadn't extended him? And if so, who cares?
So I don't think there's going to be a Raptors deal there. Like that's in they got all these bad deals. It's going to take them picks to just like get a team interested in taking them on. Uh, so probably not going to happen there. Like, do you if you're the Kings, do you accept Quickly and Pirtle and 2 firsts for Sabonis?
Are they too good unprotected firsts of my choice?
They probably have to be. Yeah,
Well, yeah, I just the Kings are going to be so bad for so long that I don't mind having some bad money on my books, whatever. If I can get 2 unprotected firsts in like 30 and 32, I probably just do that. But yeah, I think given where they are, there's no boundaries with their roster, right? Like it's
yeah,
a total blank slate. The whole idea is the most important players on the next successful Kings team are probably going to be Keegan Murray, who's already here, fine, but 2 or 3 lottery picks that we haven't made yet. And there's no money that I'm thinking, aside from Keegan Murray, I'm planning to have on my books long term. So, like, look, do I want to have Jakob Pertl making 20 whatever million in 2029, 30? No. Is it really hurting any immediate plans that I have? Also, probably no. He'll be an expiring by that point, and I can just trade him. Like, it's they're not a team that has a reason not to take Jakob Pertl or whatever bad contract because of other bad money on their books. Like their books are clean enough that they can do it.
yeah. I just don't know if that even that big compensation is enough. Like the contracts are just that onerous. So it's just more not trying to get more into the Raptor stuff. Like I agree with you that that is the framework that makes sense for the Kings, but just to like go on about these contracts, the Raptors put together, they're I don't know what they're going to get done. The Bulls, that's a team that I think a lot of people following the league kind of conclude that a team that could realistically, we could see going for Sabonis. Not that it's a great fit, just seems like something they would do. Expirings, they have $50 million in expiring. Uh, is that how they want to cash in on Kobe White, or can they maybe just get away with it with 1 first-round pick like that
Why would the
Blazers
Kings
protect?
want Kobe White?
You never. Maybe they just want him if it's a good player to get.
I mean, if you're rebuilding, I don't know what the value in having Kobe White is. Like if you could make it a 3-team trade where somebody gives you something for Kobe White, and then maybe we might have something. I don't know why
Yeah,
the Kings would want Kobe White.
yeah. Like if so, Kobe White is the value heading to a third team, and then the Kings get whatever it is from a third team. More realistically, I think that Blazers pick might just be enough. I mean, what you were alluding to, what you think Sabonis's value might be. What was the trade you pitched earlier? Was a Warriors trade? Was it?
Yeah, it was like 2 first-round picks plus 2 first-round picks and matching salary, including Kuminga, for Sabonis and Keon Ellis.
I feel like Sabonis is worth maybe just one good first round pick right now, and that's mostly because of his contract.
Yeah, I mean, it
Um,
depends. If you're also getting Keon Ellis, maybe you're then willing to give up the second pick.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking the Bulls could probably get something done if they really want to. I have an interesting one for you. Um, if I'm the Kings, I would hope that I can turn Sabonis into Zion and Eves Misi. So no picks. Pelicans really right now doesn't make sense for them to trade picks right now. They're not going to wanna. So you get you get a big in Eves Misi that you could hopefully build with, and then you get Zion, who's not really anyone that we think the Kings would build around. But we've discussed the nature of Zion Williamson's non-guaranteed contract. It's probably right now only going to be 20% guaranteed. So if the Kings really want to, and I discussed how this would work, uh, a team could trade for Zion now and waive him after the trade deadline, because then wouldn't qualify. He wouldn't have played enough games to get those extra guaranteed triggers. So you could then just be on the hook for like 8 million. So that's another way that you could save a ton of money. So you get like some young player from the Pelicans that they might not value. I would say Yves Misi. And then if that's the intention, just to save a bunch of money, you could just go ahead and waive Zion. What do you think about that?
Why would the Pelicans want a center that doesn't protect the rim? Like they just
So
went through this with Zion. They need the big
yeah.
name that they put next to Queen has to be a rim protector. That's not negotiable.
No, I'm 100% with you. I've said this before. Sometimes I might not necessarily pitch a trade that I think is fair or makes sense for everyone, but sometimes those trades happen, and that's just something. The Pelicans might need another big. Maybe they'd be interested in Sabonis.
If there was some reporting, I could maybe get behind that, but out of the blue, he's just not the player archetype that they need.
No, 100%. I wouldn't do it if I were them,
Yeah.
but you never know. If the Suns weren't doing that well, before the season started, I thought about Jalen Green and Mark Williams for Sabonis. Now, no, that's off the table. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what I got for Sabonis. Any other teams you think out there?
No, I just think it's the sad reality for centers that aren't good on defense. Unless you're Jokic, it's just so hard. Like if you're going to be making that salary anyway, like it's sort of you can have one of the three things. Like you can be super expensive, you can be weak defensively. Or I guess it's two things. Like you could maybe get away with one, you can't get away with both. And I just don't think there are that many teams that are serious about trying to win anything of note that want the max salary center who doesn't defend unless it's Jokic.
Do you think it makes sense for a team to acquire Sabonis if they already have a rim protecting center and just go double bigs? And if there are, this might be more theoretical. Is there a team that could potentially work on right now?
I don't have an idea in mind. I guess the theory is Sabonis is such a good rim protector. Or sorry, such a good rebounder, not rim protector, that you could do something similar to what Houston does, where like your goal is we're just gonna get a million offensive rebounds. And like Sabonis is a little bit like Şengün, where he's not like a great shooter, but he's decent enough. Like
Yeah.
he'll take a couple threes a game. I guess Şengün was shooting much better than that earlier in the season, but like he's not a total non-shooter. So I guess that theoretically could work. I don't have a team offhand.
Yeah. Just trying to think of ways a team could potentially bring him in and try to compete at a high level. That might be it, but at that salary, it's just kind of hard to see how that combination works and with who. Maybe Portland if Donovan Clingan was a little more along, but I think that then you're marginalizing some of your other front court players, so probably not. But that was just kind of a thought. You pitched a pretty good Malik Monk trade. Feels like that's kind of what they're looking at, just neutral value. Hopefully they get an expiring contract. He fits that mold of players, small guards who are just being devalued right now. Any other teams you think could just use a guy like Monk for free?
Fred VanVleet for Malik Monk, now that Houston's offense is starting to sputter a little bit. That gets Houston very close to ducking the tax as well.
Well, I don't think Houston does that, but I do. In some ways, I kind of wish we did the Southwest Division 1 now, because I'm wondering if the recent stretch could get them a little more serious about trading Fred. I would guess
What we
probably
could
not still,
do,
but I'm
just as
sure
an aside, this is just for us, but what we could do is now do a seventh divisional preview pod where we just correct things that have changed since we recorded the first episodes. Like something to consider. Anyway, that's listeners think
yeah.
there's your behind the curtain of the day.
Yeah, it's hard to see who can use Monk right now. Like every team's so set at guard.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
Houston is the only team that comes to mind, and the real value there, aside from getting Monk, is ducking the tax. But I just don't know how much Ime Udoka would use a second small guard. So like, is Monk playing over Reed Shepard? Are they playing them both? Are they staggering them? So like, you always have one of them on the floor. I don't know how they'd handle that.
if Atlanta wasn't trying to save money next year, if you can turn Kennard into Monk, like I like that, but they're probably not going to want the money for next year.
I think they want a better guard than that. I think they'd rather take that money and go for Kobe White, as we talk about all the time.
If the same thing with the Celtics, I'm sure for basketball reasons and financial reasons, they would trade Simons for Monk. But then you're going to have to play this dance again where you're trying to get off Monk to duck the tax. I think they're in any Simons deal where they duck the tax, they're also trying to get expiring contracts right now.
Agreed.
Um, Detroit was rumored earlier in the offseason. LeVert for Monk?
I don't know. I don't know why the Pistons would do like the Pistons, if they're gonna make a trade, there has to be some substantial upside in it for them because like why mess with something that's going this well? What does Monk really do for you that you don't already have on the team?
3 point, a little more 3 point shooting
It's not a big enough gap. It's just not worth it.
for the bench.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. And by the way, like, do we know for sure what the deal is with Malik Beasley? Is he totally out for the year?
No
Has that been
update. We don't
established
know.
anywhere?
We don't know. Still don't know what's going on. Last one. If we never even talked about the Warriors one, but do you think at any point they would consider any of the 2-team offers that were presented to them by the Kings or Suns? So the Suns, it was like, I think it was going to be like Royce O'Neal and Nick Richards, and then some seconds, which I'm not sure where they would have gotten them from. And then the Kings straight up for Monk. Do you think they would just hold on to Kuminga and do this again if these were the offers that they had?
Probably. I don't think they want to take on the Monk contract. I think they view that as more harm than good. Maybe Royce O'Neal would be interesting for the Warriors, but he's just not really what they need. And again, I think the Suns are so happy with how this season has gone. Like, why are they doing that? I don't know. I don't think they really need the upside. I don't think they need to mess with what they have.
Um,
So
if I'm the Suns, I think I would probably the issue is ducking the tax. If you could do, they're allowed to do Royce O'Neal and Nick Richards for Kuminga. I think that's
you're not
close to
ducking the tax
working.
this year or next
Yeah,
year if you do that.
yeah, that's the issue. But if that wasn't an issue, I'd probably do that if I could, despite the risk of disrupting the chemistry and what you got going.
Well, the other, like, at that point, I think the opportunity cost for Golden State is just having Kuminga's salary available in the offseason to do whatever I want to do. And I think I'd just rather have him then than make that trade. Like, Royce O'Neal isn't changing my fate.
Do you want to talk Schroeder, or did I already
Nobody
do enough
wants
with
Schroeder.
that one trade?
Yeah, nobody wants. It's like, can you dump him?
Any other Keon trades you want? You
Everybody in the league.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be nobody's giving up a first for him, I don't think. Although like maybe Washington could talk itself into like the number 30 pick and just like we need another defensive guard if we're really gonna do this Trae Young thing next year. So maybe that, but like really it's gonna be who has a bunch of second round picks or a good second round pick. Because should we go in on the like what happened here and why we're having this conversation? Because it really is just A-level stupidity on the Kings' part, which is just what they always do. So the very quick version of this is that Keon Ellis had a team option for $2.3 million this year. The Kings could have declined it, made him a restricted free agent, and re-signed him under favorable terms, knowing that he couldn't leave. That's what the Thunder do with all of their guys. And, they say you should never, ever emulate Sam Presti. So naturally, the Kings decided to pick up this team option, which allows them to keep him for 2.3 million this year. But instead, he will be an unrestricted free agent next offseason when he will presumably be signed by a smart team that actually wants to give him enough minutes. So the name of the game for them right now is just get as much as you can because you're probably going to lose him anyway.
Last one. And this, I guess, really isn't a trade thing, but a interesting way to cap off our division trade preview series. Russell Westbrook, what do you think happens to him after the trade deadline?
Still on the team, plays out the season, and we do the dance in the off season where like one team talks himself into him and we do it all again.
So I've been putting a little bit of thought into this, mainly because there's a lot. The OKC Thunder of the early 2010s, KD, Russ, Harden, these guys are climbing up the leaderboards of all sorts of records, especially scoring. KD just got to 7th. He's going to pass Dirk and potentially Michael Jordan for 5th this year, as early as this year. Harden just got to 10th. He's going to pass Shaq for 9th this year too. And then he'll probably, go up 8th, 7th, 6th. Russ is 15th right now. And last year, so this really quickly, some of his totals. When he was on the Clippers coming off the bench, he had 750 points. Last year with the Nuggets coming off the bench, he scored just under 1,000. So far, he's already scored about almost 600 halfway through the season. So he's on track for I guess 1,200-ish points this season, which is kind of a lot for a player in his 18th season. So I'm guessing he's going to want to stay on the Kings because I don't really anticipate another team wanting him after a buyout. I can't really think who that'd be. It took forever in the entire offseason for him to sign with them. And if he stays on the Kings right now, he's 15th all time. He could potentially go all the way up to 13th, potentially past Hakeem and Elvin Hayes on the pace he's currently on. So just an interesting thing. I think he's going to want to continue the situation where he can keep building up his stats.
Do the Rockets have room for a 15th player under the hard cap?
I believe that as of a couple days ago, yeah, right? Yeah, literally as of today or yesterday, they can sign a 15th guy, but they could also just delay that, sign a 10-day guy if they want.
I'm just putting that out there as it'd be kind of funny if, the last team that wants Russ is KD's team. I doubt that'll be the case, but we have talked about them getting a guard. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay,
Not the guard I would want, but just saying.
Last question then on the Kings. How many trades do you think they end up doing at the trade deadline?
I'll say 2. I think one way or another, they come up with Kuminga, and I think Keon Ellis goes in a separate deal. But I think the biggest stuff, I think Levine will still be on the team, and Sabonis will still be on the team after the deadline.
Yeah, I think the line is 2.5. I'd probably lean under. So, yeah. All right. That'll do our division preview series. Sure, me and Sam will be active now throughout the month. We're precisely 3 weeks from the trade deadline, I believe.
3 weeks, 2 days. I don't know when we're releasing this, but 3 weeks, 2 days from when we're talking.
And hopefully, Kuminga will have been moved by then. Read CBS Sports. Sam will be writing a lot of stuff as usual. Subscribe to Third Apron wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the Substack, and we will be back hopefully this week. See you guys later.